Bonjour à tous, ici Sprullex et bienvenue dans ce 4e épisode de Let's Play sur le Forgotten City. Alors, dans l'épisode précédent, on a testé un peu, tiens, il y a une porte là en bas. On a testé un peu le vol.
You're not thinking about going into the cistern, are you?
Quoi? Pourquoi?
Nobody's told you about Hannibal? Ugh, why do I have to do everything round here? So, there was this guy called Hannibal, right? Funny accent. Used to go down into the cisterns looking for junk he could clean up and sell. One day, a few weeks back, he comes out and tells me the cisterns are haunted. Said he could hear spirits wailing. Of course, nobody believed him, because who trusts a Carthaginian, right? Anyway, a few days later, he goes back in. And hours go by, and he hasn't come back out, yeah? So I go down after him, and it's dark. But in the distance, I can just make out his body, sprawled out on the ground, and hunched over him was something that made my blood run cold. No word of a lie, I saw a creature. Like the corpse of a man who'd been flayed, and it was eating Hannibal.
Cela n'aurait-il pas dû enfreindre la règle d'or?
If it was a man, maybe. But I swear on my life this was no man. More like a Strix, or some Versipelus that feeds on human flesh. I didn't stick around to see which.
Qu'avez-vous?
What any sane person would have done. I legged it out of there and put a sign at the door to warn the others.
Je vais peut-être éviter.
Good idea.
Ok, donc c'est pas pour tout de suite, il faudra d'abord que je me protège. Oui, tu vas essayer de m'aider, je suis bien d'accord, mais...
On your best behavior, I trust?
Majestic. Keeping an eye on things, Horatius?
As always, priestess.
Any news about Scintilla, Navia, or Kabash?
No sign of any of them, I'm afraid. Well, we do have
Ok, alors qu'est-ce qu'on a ici? Bouteille du garum, une sauce au poisson fermenté utilisée comme condiment. Elle a une légère odeur salée. Là, mais on peut même pas le retourner. Ah, les thermes. Ah non, pardon, les toilettes. Toilettes inspectées, latrine publique collective. Ces trous doivent être conçus pour être utilisés avec le bâton éponge. Il y en a un qui est mort pendant qu'il était occupé de graffiti. Traduire. Toujours se souvenir qu'elle nous observe. Ah, bâton éponge. Un petit bâton au bout duquel une éponge est attachée. Succès en plus pas hygiénique. Ramasser l'éponge, le bâton éponge. Ah mais c'est horrible. Ça devait être ce qu'utilisaient les Romains à la place du papier toilette. Son usage était collectif, il vaut mieux le remettre à sa place. C'est dégueu. C'est dégueu. Alors, pécateur, pêcheur, d'accord. Alors, Et Virgile.
Ah, a new face. Salve, and welcome to our little community. My name's impossible to pronounce for most people, so you can just call me Virgil. I hear we have you to thank for saving Julia's life. I'm glad you arrived when you did.
Alors, quelle est votre histoire?
Well, I'm an architect. Or at least I was back in Rome. That's probably too grandiose a term to describe what I do here. Help out with repairs and try to stop old buildings from collapsing on people, that kind of thing. But you probably don't want to hear about the ingenious architecture or mysterious history of this place.
Parlez-moi de l'histoire de la
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Some of these shrines were constructed hundreds of years ago, which means Romans have been arriving here for at least that long. But there's one thing that puzzles me. The oldest shrine in this avenue isn't Roman at all. It's Greek.
Ah. C'est normal pour les Romains de copier l'art et l'architecture des Grecs, non?
Well, yes, that could be the reason. Or it could mean that there were Greeks living and worshipping here before the Romans arrived. Which begs the interesting question, who really built this place? And could it be far older than any of us imagine? If only there was a way we could talk to the people who came here before us. The stories they could tell.
Parlez-moi de l'architecture.
Gladly. Personally, my favorite thing about this place is the aqueducts. Those series of adjoining arches. They're an ingenious feat of Roman engineering with a very practical purpose. They take fresh water coming from outside the city and distribute it all across the chasm. It's funneled below the palace and into a cistern beneath the great temple. Some of it flows down into another cistern beneath the villas, and the rest is funneled to the shrine of Proserpina, where it fills the lake and allows us to fish and farm.
D'accord. Si les gens apportent de l'eau dans la cité, ne peut-on pas se servir pour s'enfuir?
Hey, not so loud. Just talking about that could anger the gods for all we know. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you'd have to find a way inside somehow. Just, please, try to be a bit more discreet about it.
Ok, découvrir comment accéder à la citerne supérieure. Parlez-moi du temple sur la
You
falaise.
mean the great temple? This one's a bit of a mystery. Given the way it's positioned so prominently, looking down on us, it's clear that whoever built it felt it was the most important temple in the city. Unfortunately, someone else went out of their way to keep its purpose a mystery. You see, usually a temple is dedicated to a particular god, like Proserpina or Diana or Apollo. Usually, that god is obvious. But in this case, it's unknown. There's an obelisk out the front, which probably used to bear the name of this unknown god. But it appears some barbarian defaced it. And of course we can't get inside because it's locked up tighter than the Temple of Saturn in Rome. And that contains the treasury. So we're all left wondering, which god is that temple dedicated to? And could it be the one responsible for the Golden Rule? Unless somebody figures out a way inside, I suppose we'll never know.
Ok.
Of course,
Que pensez-vous de la règle
some
d'or?
people say it's divine, the work of a god, but I'm not so sure. It just seems so flawed to me. Like it's distinctly human. I mean, once you've been here long enough, you'll notice people doing things that just seem so wrong to you. But this so-called god doesn't seem to care, which means one of two things. Either you don't know the difference between right and wrong, or this unknown god doesn't. And I'm pretty sure I know the difference. Do you?
D'accord, je pense que oui.
Good. Then I hope you'll agree that there are only two ways of dealing with unfair rulers. The first is to leave. The second is to remove the ruler from power. And it seems leaving may not be an
D'accord,
option.
virer. voir?
Good question. It's best if I say no more, but I hope you'll give it some thought.
D'accord, j'ai remarqué les graffitis. Pourquoi vous accusez d'être un pêcheur?
Look, I haven't done anything wrong, if that's what you're thinking. Somebody just has a problem with my preference for male company.
Vous aimez les hommes?
Hey, nothing gets by you, huh? Sorry, that was mean. Yes, I like men. And when you grow up in the north, as I did, in the city of Noviomagos, you expect a bit of hostility. The Batavi are not known for their tolerance. I saw enough friends killed or driven away to know the cost of not keeping your personal affairs to yourself. So I hid who I was for, what was it, nearly 10 years? Watching what I said and where I looked. But that kind of fear eats away at you slowly, until living isn't any better than the thing you were afraid of. Needless to say, since I'm now living underground, halfway across the known world with an assumed name, my openness didn't go down well among the enlightened folk of the Batavi.
Ok, cela me désole de l'entendre.
Nice of you to say, but not necessary. In any case, the Romans are far more accepting, and among them, I get to be who I am. Or at least, I thought that was the case. It seems I was wrong.
Savez-vous qui écrit les graffitis?
It's not just graffiti. I have quite a collection of handwritten notes too. The strange thing is, I keep my personal affairs to myself. I've never really been interested in any of the men here. Not my type. So I'm not sure what I could have done to upset this person. If I had to guess, I'd say it's probably one of those cultists.
Les membres de secte.
Strange bunch. They insist there's only one God, and that he considers my nature a sin. Can you believe that? If there are any of them here, they won't admit it. Not since they supposedly burnt down half of Rome last year and went into hiding. All I know is, if these threats keep escalating, eventually my secret admirer is going to cross a line and break the golden rule.
J'ai mon
What?
ticket pour vous.
Really? I didn't expect that. But thanks. It's always a pleasure to meet someone so selfless. I'm glad you arrived when you did. I'd start by figuring out who the cultists are. Or maybe ask around among the merchants here. Someone who lives or works in the forum must have seen something. But if you find them, please don't hurt or humiliate them. I suspect they're just confused.
Je vais voir ce que je peux faire. Pour qui allez-vous voter?
Well, Malleolus is talking about loosening some of the restrictions in this place. And while it's all a bit vague, at least he has a vision.
Je vais faire quelque chose pour changer
My
cela.
vote isn't for sale, if that's what you're asking.
Qualifiez-vous un moyen de
You wouldn't believe how often the new ones ask that question. But I'd tell you the same thing I tell everyone else. There are much worse places to live out your days. You might have a few sleepless nights thinking about the golden rule, but once you get used to the fear, knowing that a single slip-up could cost you everything, it's not too bad. Nothing new to me, anyway. Oh, I just mean I grew up in the Batavi tribe, far to the north in Noviomagos, and learned to expect a bit of hostility. They weren't nearly as tolerant as the Romans.
Ok. Je m'en vais.
Nice to talk to you.
Ok. Donc, un atelier d'architecte, même si ça ne sert pas à grand chose par ici. D'ailleurs, on l'a déjà vu. Là, c'est toujours le marchand. Il n'a pas l'air disponible, d'accord, on a fini avec lui quoi.
Hey, Virgil, how much would you want to make me a bow?
For the last time, Dacius, I'm not making you a bow.
But why?
You know why.
But how am I going to defend myself against someone else with a weapon?
Note du lit. Il ne dit clairement son innocence.
That's why I've got to get in first before someone else beats me to it.
D'accord. Je n'ai pas fait tirer du lit. Ah, Galerius.
I saw you use the device I made, and it worked! Anyway, I'm sorry to ask, but is there any chance you'd be willing to do me a favor?
Que voulez-vous?
Well, I've been trying to get this rare flower from the rock spire in the middle of the lake. It's too steep to climb, so I hung a rope over the lake and made this pulley device, only I, couldn't quite summon the nerve to use it. Do you think you could use the device again and try to get that flower for me?
Bah oui, je le ferai. Bien sûr, pourquoi pas.
Oh, thank you. It would help me a lot. There's no rush, just whenever you get a chance.
Je vais voir ce que je peux faire. Alors, quelle est votre histoire?
Well, it's a long one and kind of sad, but I don't mind telling it. I'm a farmer. Always have been. I grew up in a small village in Britannia, Camulodunum, with my parents and 2 little sisters. Lovely part of the world. One day, when I was about 20, my father and I were in the top paddock, loading our cart, when some Roman legionaries came along, demanding produce for their men. My father told me to run into the house for his axe, and so I did. Sprinted so fast I almost threw up, but by the time I got back, he was bleeding out on the ground, and our cart was empty. That was my first encounter with the legions. My mother died of a broken heart soon after, and things went downhill from there. I took over the farmstead, but I was young, and it was a struggle. More raiding started before too long. We'd come outside in the morning to find animals missing, our stores pillaged. These Legion thugs just took whatever they wanted. One night, when my sisters and I had nothing left to steal, there was a knock at the door. I knew who they were, and what they wanted. I got my father's old axe, pulled the door open real quick, and before that soldier knew it, split his face right down the middle. But there were more of them. I never saw how many, because the next thing I knew, I was waking up with a mouth full of dirt and lungs full of smoke. My home was reduced to ash. My sisters, dead. And they left me alive to see what they'd done. Still burns whenever I think about it.
Ok, ça me plaisait de longtemps.
Yeah, well, I wasn't the only one this happened to. It wasn't long before Boudica led thousands of Britons in a rebellion against the Romans. Unfortunately, there were just too many of them. And those of us who survived, they enslaved. So, then I found myself being transported all the way to Rome to be sold to the highest bidder. I spent a few years working for my new master, learning the Romans' ways, Romanized my name and everything. Tried to escape a couple of times, but they always found me, and I'd just end up right back where I was. I'd probably still be there too, if it wasn't for the stampedes breaking out. You see, about 7 months ago, an enormous fire broke out in Rome. Everybody was running down toward the river, screaming and shouting. I'd never seen anything like it. Human beings acting like cattle. I got swept up with them somehow, and the rest is a blur. The next thing I knew, some stranger was dragging me out of a river. Stumbled across this place and started my life over again.
D'accord, tout est bien qui finit bien.
That's what I thought too, for a while. But it seems the gods aren't done tormenting me yet. See, I finally had my own farm again, safe from the grasping hands of the Romans. Or so I thought. Until Sentius the Decurion demanded I hand over all my produce. It's for the good of us all, he says. Only he takes the best bits for himself, of course. He even told me if I refuse his demands, I'll break the golden rule. I'm not sure I believe him, but then, what if he's right? So, it turns out our dear old magistrate is no better than the Legion thugs who took everything from me. I'm right back where I began. But don't you worry, Nemesis is waiting, and he'll get his, one day. He'll get his. Forget I said that last part, will you? I get carried away sometimes.
Bien sûr.
Thanks, friend. I knew I liked you. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling. Was there something else you wanted to talk about?
Alors, connaissez-vous une sortie
Well, as much as I'd love to get out of here, the harvest's always more fruitful in another man's field, isn't it? But Scintilla, Sentius's daughter, went missing a few weeks back. Could be she found a way out. If anyone knows for sure, it'll be her sister, Sentia. But she'd never tell the likes of me.
D'accord, que pensez-vous
Oh, I don't give it
d'abord?
much thought these days. I mean, everybody here's got their own view about what we need to do to survive. But I say, let's spend less time arguing about what it means to be good and just get on with it, you know?
Que pensez-vous de l'élection?
I can't see how I could vote for either candidate. I don't like Sentius much, but Malleolus is almost as bad. Even I could do a better job. Me, a farmer. And I've never given a speech or put on a toga in my life.
Ok,
All right, see you around.
très bien. Bon, bah, on va continuer, hein. Il y a un prisonnier là.
Hello? Hello?
Alors, recueillez votre histoire.
My name's Dooley. I live here now because I got in trouble and they said they had to lock me up.
Qu'avez-vous
I
fait?
don't know. I don't remember things so good. I think it's just because I was looking for treasure.
Alors, quelqu'un crut que vous avez volé?
Yes. But I wasn't. I was just looking.
C'est tout?
They said I did it more than once, but I can't remember things so good. Then they called me mean names. They called me a liar, Billy.
Un inconvénient.
Yes. They said I have to live here now, and gave me this letter. But I'm not good with words. Do you think you could read it for me?
Allez. Lettre de Sanctius et Dully. Résumé. Le magistrat Sanctius explique que Dully a été emprisonné pour l'empêcher de s'introduire dans des propriétés privées. D'accord. Je vous écris au sujet de votre incorrigible comportement antisocial induit par votre obsession pour un prétendu trésor perdu. Même si je compatis à votre souffrance et au décès de votre gardien Hannibal, il y a quelques semaines, je tiens à vous adresser un message important. Le trésor que vous cherchez n'existe pas. Au vu de votre mémoire douteuse, il semblerait que vos souvenirs soient tout simplement inexacts. En outre, puisque vous avez été surpris à plusieurs occasions à pénétrer illégalement dans divers lieux, y compris autour des citernes, ce qui est strictement prohibé aux citoyens, je suis arrivé à la regrettable conclusion que vous représentez un inconvénient pour cette communauté et doit restreindre vos libertés, de crainte que de vous voir enfreindre la règle d'or. J'espère que cette lettre vous permettra de vous rappeler la raison de votre incarcération en cas de futur trou de mémoire. Alors, non, il n'y a pas de... Ah oui, d'accord, on a...
What does it say?
Il est marqué qu'ils vous ont surpris sur une propriété privée et qu'ils vous ont enfermé pour vous empêcher d'enfreindre la règle d'or.
My treasure!
Quel trésor?
My friend Hannibal used to look after me. He said he always would. But then, he died. It was very sad. He said, if anything ever happened to him, I had to find something very precious hidden away. He gave me this key and made me promise to keep it safe until I found the treasure. But I couldn't find it. All I remember is he said something about assistance.
Fortune smile on
But
you,
when I
brother.
went up to the high one, they put me in here. Now nobody looks after me. Except my friend Galerius. And Ek, the priestess lady. She's a nice lady.
D'accord, si vous donnez la clé, je chercherai ce qu'elle ouvre.
Hannibal said I shouldn't give it to anyone I didn't trust. But maybe you could help me get out of here. Then I would trust you a lot.
D'accord. Laissez-moi parler de votre libération, magistrat.
Galerius already tried that. He said the magistrate wouldn't listen, no matter what.
Alors il peut être temps pour nous d'avoir un nouveau magistrat.
Like, Galerius, he's nice. I like Galerius. He made me a doll and everything. If you help make him magistrate, he can get me out of here, and I can give you the key to my treasure. Hannibal said it was in the cisterns. I can't remember what it was, just that it was way up high and very precious.
Je vais voir ce que je peux faire. Connaissez-vous un moyen de sortir d'ici?
You're going to let me out of here? Really?
C'est pas ce que j'ai dit. Je vous ai demandé si vous connaissez un moyen de sortir d'ici.
Oh. Please.
Ça y est, c'est le simple du village, hein.
It makes me very sad.
Oubliez. Que pensez-vous de la règle d'or?
Gold? You mean treasure?
Oui, c'est le simple du village. Oubliez. Parlons de
My
votre
friend
trésor.
Hannibal used to look after me. He said he always would. But then he said he gave it all. Now no.
Très bien. Je m'en vais.
Bye bye.
Ok. Alors, on a pas mal de quêtes secondaires. Pas de maquillage.
Help! You have to do something!
Ah,
A man arrived in the baths. A real nasty sort, with his face all covered up. And he's got a weapon. You have to do something, or he's gonna break the golden rule.
alors, comment je n'ai pas
None of
d'armes.
us do. The magistrate made us throw them all into the chasm. So now this man's bow is the only one in the city. You
non.
just have to improvise.
En quoi cela me concerne? Attention, hein. Si on a une nouvelle quête prioritaire, en quoi cela me
Are you
concerne?
daft or just callous? If you don't stop him, we're all going to die.
Je vais voir ce que je peux faire.
Thank you. He's still in there, somewhere. I have to hide. Find me in this empty shrine when it's over.
Ah non. Peut-être devrions-nous pas nous voir ici.
What? We don't have time for this. I have to go.
Laissez tomber, je ne sais pas pourquoi j'y suis. D'accord.
The shrine is collapsing.
Merci, la statue. Allez, adieu.
Fabia, no! Oh gods, she's dead! Did anyone see that? The whole shrine just collapsed on her! Oh Fabia, why did you have to go in there? Poor sweet girl!
Ok. Alors, petite sauvegarde. Et on va s'arrêter là pour cet épisode. On continuera dans le suivant. En attendant, eh bien, merci d'avoir regardé. J'espère que ça vous a plu. N'hésitez pas à me dire ce que vous en avez pensé dans les commentaires. Mettez des pouces en l'air, abonnez-vous pour ne pas rater la suite. Et portez-vous bien. Bye.